Hello and welcome to the Temple Mountain Podcast. I'm Shogun, and joining me today is my friend Chrome Graves. And whereas I usually host the podcast and ask the questions, today the situation will be reversed, and Chrome Graves will be interviewing me about Discord history and the history of our two major servers, the Round Table and the Temple Mount, as well as what came before that. And so without further ado, there'll be an AMA afterwards, and also shout out to MK Ultra 3, which is Chrome Graves' own server, where this will also be mirrored, and you can find that link in general as well. So that being said, make sure you subscribe to the Temple Mount official YouTube channel. Lots of great episodes there, new ones coming out every day. Welcome, Chrome Graves. Thank you for joining me. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. Thank you for allowing me to do this. It's been a long time coming. I've been on Discord for about a couple years now and had a lot of amazing conversations. And this specific server is where I learned about the podcast style, podcast every day. And you're a big major inspiration for my server, MK Ultra 3. And YouTube channel, Subconscious Lifestyle, that started back in 2020 when I first started going in VCs and spiritual servers. But you can go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say it's a great honor to be called an inspiration to anybody else's projects. And please make sure that you post your channels. You can post them in general and also in the member content channel so that people can find your work. But it's always great when people decide to do their own projects because of what they say here.
Yep, so I got a couple of questions for you. But to start out, just let's do an opening about yourself, like who you are and what you do on Discord.
Sure. I go by Shogun. I can't change my name even if I wanted to. People will always call me Shogun. I've been Shogun for close to 5 years now, I guess. At least 4. I honestly don't remember how it came to Discord. I have no memory of joining Discord. But the first server and really only server I joined at the time was called MK Ultra, and that was a conspiracy theory server with close to 4,000 members that was run by a guy named Chad. And anyways, I was his main administrator guy, running events and so forth for quite a while, and I put a lot of work into MK Ultra. He and I had a falling out, and we can get into that, but it was a long time ago, and that's what led to me creating the Round Table. And as you guys know, the rest is history. The Round Table was hugely successful and very active and grew very quickly, like 500 members a month and like 30, 40 people in the VCs, up to 90 people in the VCs. And that was also when I started doing special events. And the server was created in September 10th, 2019, the Round Table. And our first special event was a 9/11 event the following day. And then for a full year, we did special events, but we didn't record them. I just did one every day. And it was just you had to be there or you missed it. And then at some point, I started realizing it would make a lot more sense to record all this great content. And that was the birth of the podcast. And as you know, the podcast now has over 500 episodes. It's been listened to a total of over 50,000 times, which may not be much by YouTube standards compared to, the Jake Pauls and whatevers of the world. But considering our content is so niche and esoteric and deep and trippy, I consider all of those views to be meaningful because any of our episodes could sort of change somebody's thinking or somebody's life. So that's a quick synopsis of my past. After the Round Table, we created the Temple Mount. Temple Mount basically is an upgrade and an evolution and an improvement, but it's the same community and it has the same mission and vision of friendly, polite, and respectful dialogue where everyone is welcome regardless of their religion, regardless of their beliefs. And we're kind of like a family, a content creators collective, and a server community. And I guess we've been successfully doing it with active VCs every day and special events every day for at least 3 years, maybe 4 now. So sorry if that was like a super long answer to your question. In a more general sense, I'm a 35-year-old dude who lives in Canada, works for the provincial government, and this is all a side gig for me. But I mean, it's meant the world to me, so I put a lot of time and blood, sweat, and tears into it.
Oh yes, it's we're in similar situations. It's a side gig for me as well. I work full time at Amazon, a big corporation, and I see the ins and outs. And we won't go into Amazon in this episode, but in the future. But I haven't even started the questions. That's the great
Yes,
part.
sir.
That was just a little introduction about you, give context to the questions, and you answered the first one. During that, when did you first start using Discord, and how did you find the app? It's kind of just popped up on your phone. There wasn't really a instance where.
Well, it was like after I divorced my wife, because my wife and I got divorced like 5, 6 years ago. So I think at some point after that, I discovered Discord just by searching like chat app or something like that on my phone. But I don't remember the distinct time when I downloaded it, but it would have been after that. And yeah, so somewhere around 5 or 6 years ago. And then I don't know how long I worked for MK Ultra, the original MK Ultra server. Could have been a whole year. Could have been more. Could have been less. I'm really not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we covered a lot of my questions in that intro, so it was very, very great. Like, don't even trip about it being long because we went through the first five questions, and then I already know the answer to this. But what are your top five servers on Discord?
Oh, well, I've only ever participated in my own servers. It makes me kind of unusual, but the only servers I've ever been involved in are the original MK Ultra server, where I was like the head mod for quite a while. I like loved that server. Put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that server too. And then after that, I made the round table. That was like our true home. We were active there, special events there, community there, church services there, kickboxing classes there, merchandise store and all that. And we stayed there for years. And then, it was probably, almost a year ago already that we came to Temple Mount. The time has flown by. And so those are really the only servers I've ever been involved in. I've tried joining other servers many, many times, and I'm not trying to be like biased, but like no other servers have voice chat activity whatsoever. And the very few that do is just not stimulating. It's not interesting to me. And it's almost always some kind of like echo chamber where everybody agrees on like politics or religion and they just kind of sit around and agree with each other all day. But I've never found anything else that fills the particular emotional and psychological need that the Round Table and Temple Mount community have filled for me for years, which is like I'm bored by the mainstream media. I don't watch TV. I don't watch movies. I don't play video games. I don't read newspapers. I use the Round Table and the Temple Mount to curate the kind of information and the kind of relationships that I find actually interesting. So it's like my own personal escape bubble from like the mainstream and everything else that's boring.
Oh, yes, I completely agree. Voice chat activity is the first thing I look for in a server, and this server has that. And I would just put the number 4 and 5 as MK Ultra 3. But on to the next question. How long have you been a Christian?
Yeah, and I didn't want to say that like your server or anyone else's server is not good. I have not joined that many servers, so I can't say there aren't like great ones. But of the ones I've been in, but I'll certainly check out your server and recommend everyone else does as well. MK Ultra 3. But as for how long I've been a Christian, really all my life. I was born and raised in the Christian church. I have a biblical name. All my three names have biblical or religious significance. I grew up in the Mennonite church, so I went to Sunday school and like early church services at a place called the Meeting Place in Winnipeg. And since then, I've been to many, many different churches, but I now identify as an Anglican, part of the Anglican Church of Canada. and that is the largest Protestant church in the world. So we're not Catholics, and we're the largest body of Anglicans, or of Protestants, which makes us the third most common kind of Christians in the world after Catholic and Greek Orthodox, or Roman Orthodox, Greek Eastern Orthodox, I guess it's called. But in another answer to that question is I only became like a true Christian in like, I think it was like 2020 or 2021 when I had my first like born again experience. And since then I've had several really intense religious experiences and other situations that have changed what I believe about Christianity and how intensely I believe it and how I live it. And yeah, as I get older, my faith gets stronger, and I actually would say it's not faith, because faith is the evidence of things unseen, or belief in the evidence of absence. And for whatever reason, God has chosen to reveal himself to me at many times. So like, I don't even consider it faith. Like I consider it knowledge that there is such a thing as a God.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Yeah, I've got similar experiences growing up in the church, and then but would you say became a real Christian in 2020?
Yeah, because when you say you're a Christian, you just mean like I culturally identify with Christianity, or I think Jesus is cool. It doesn't necessarily mean anything to say that you're a Christian. But to be born again, Jesus said, unless you be born again, by no wise shall you enter into the kingdom of heaven. So it's not about being Christian. It's not even about being saved. That's only the beginning. What it's really about is announcing and bringing about what's called the kingdom of heaven. And being part of the kingdom of heaven, entering into the kingdom of heaven is what we want to do. And so in order to do that, the Bible says you must be born again. And so that's why I used to identify as a born again Christian. Now I identify as an Anglican. I could also identify as a non-denominational Christian, because anyone who is in contact with Jesus Christ through the Holy Spirit is a Christian, or is part of the Church of Christ, which is the body of Christ. But when I go to take communion, when I meet my pastor, when I go to church, I go to the Anglican Church of Canada, All Saints United, and St. Benedict's Table.
Oh yeah, uh, yeah. It's kind of like an awakening, really. But on to the next question, and this is the one that I've got written in red because it might be a hot topic. Are you still gender fluid?
I mean, yes, I suppose I am. Yeah, I am. And again, you can find the episode about gender fluidity in the Temple Mount official podcast channel. And you can also find a channel about gender fluidity on the Temple Mount Discord server. Just type hashtag gender fluid into general chat and it'll populate the link. I recommend you check it out. What being gender fluid means essentially is that you can change back and forth from a male to female essentially at will, or according to certain like stimuli or circumstances. So yes, I do still identify as gender fluid. So if I declare myself a woman, I am a woman for as long as I declare myself a woman. And if I declare myself a man, I'm a man for as long as I declare myself a man, because I am gender fluid.
And that's always been, reassuring to hear, because I consider myself non-binary, which is a little bit different, but same similar situation. On to the next question. How did you start doing daily podcasts? And you kind of covered a bit in the introduction, but
like I said, we started in September 10th, 2019, I believe. The roundtable was created on that day. The old MK Ultra server was deleted a few hours after the roundtable was created, and it was created on September 10th, 2019. And so September 11th, obviously being a big day in the conspiracy theory world, and that server in particular being conspiracy theory themed, well, the Temple Mount is less conspiracy theory themed than the roundtable was. But so I just did events, and I did events every single day, just off the top of my head. Like I did events on alchemy, Gnosticism, Christianity, Satan, like the Bible, like anything you can think of. I just did them all off the top of my head with no guests, like not hosting, but just doing it myself. And unfortunately, we never recorded all that. So I literally produced like, somewhere like over 300 podcasts that were never recorded in 2019. But eventually we decided to start recording them, and the first ones are rough around the edges with the audio quality and just like getting used to the format. But pretty quickly, and in fact from episode one, it was a huge success. Like episode one is one of our most listened to episodes, and I highly recommend anyone who hasn't listened to it definitely listen to episode one of the Roundtable podcast, where I interview NSA with Rhodesia Now. It's an amazing podcast, and that was how we launched it. And yeah, it's been a blast. I've interviewed basically every member of my servers. I think we have a total of like 400 or 500 episodes. We're on BitChute, we're on SoundCloud, we have like 4 YouTube channels, we're on Odyssey, we're on Spotify, Anchor. So the purpose of it basically was just realizing that we were having like truly mind-blowing and amazing conversations on a daily basis. And I was just like, man, this is such a waste. People would love to hear this. It could change their lives to hear this kind of conversation. And so ever since then, I've tried to capture like one little slice every day of what the Temple Mount or what the Round Table is by doing our recordings. But at the same time, as you guys know, there's entirely different like levels to the server when it is being recorded, when it isn't late night, afternoon, early morning, when it's serious, when it's silly, when it's crazy. But at least we have, thousands of hours of recorded content with hundreds of members. So I'm very pleased about that.
Yeah, I love being in the Temple Mount voice chat and podcast. So glad hearing where it got started from. And my next question is: are you familiar with 5D Ascended Platform of Light Warriors server?
Yeah, I am. So I made a decision because there's always a lot of toxicity and a lot of hostility that was directed towards me and towards my server, and a lot of like inter-server politics that like was focused against us. We didn't have a choice not to engage in it because it was like targeted against us. So I literally only ever went into my own servers. Like most people like Chad or whoever, they'll go and like kind of spy and pay attention to every other server in case people are talking about you or what are they saying and blah, blah, blah. I've never done that. I just post up in my own servers and I ignore other servers. Nevertheless, I'm still part of the Discord ecology. And I heard many people discuss the 5D server, and we have a rule here: we don't talk about other servers. We especially don't like shit talk other servers. And I've never even been there for any period of time. But everything I heard was negative. It was always people saying there was something like sinister about it, or that it was something bad was going on there. But because it wasn't my server, I never really asked any questions.
Yeah, the truth is, I love that server. It's a great server. It's actually what connected me to this server. So props to that server for everything that's done. It's just the owner and I guess moderation team that tries to pick and nod like inside of Discord, outside of just your normal standard conversation, but making it about Discord and all this stuff. But on to the next. What was? Well, you've already answered this, but we can ask it anyway. What is MK Ultra? The original server that started Roundtable and now Temple Mount. What was it about? If you can go a little bit into.
Yeah, for sure. Like for those of us who are true OGs, I don't know how many of us are left, right? Because we've been running as a continuous tight knit community for like 4 or 5 years, which is kind of unheard of in Discord, where servers rise and fall overnight and communities jump around. But there's no question this community was not created by me. This community's original seed was a server called MK Ultra. In respect to Chad, he goes by Chatty Daddy now, or Chad. He's the one who created MK Ultra, and I joined MK Ultra, and it was the only good conspiracy theory server on Discord at the time. It was the only one that had voice chat activity, and it was wild. It was like basically kind of like a sinister or evil mirror version of the Round Table. It was like the Round Table without family vibes, is kind of how I would describe it. And instead of the kind of like broad moderation team that we have, where we have like many Templars and many Knights Commander, and most people are mods, there was like only a small number of mods, and it was like very tightly controlled. But it was a place for discussing all the same kind of stuff that we discussed on the round table, conspiracy theories, anything from flat earth to ancient aliens to anything, right? All the conspiracy theory topics that we did there. But it was not as well organized or well thought out or as benevolent, but it was the origin of the community. So many of the people who have stayed with me for years, they know me originally from MK Ultra. And in MK Ultra, the rank structure, the lowest rank, I can't remember the sequence, but it was white coats, Tavistock, and what was it? Social engineers. White coats, Tavistock, and social engineers were the name of the ranks. And of course, you should all know by now, but MK Ultra was like a really sinister, illegal CIA program that was done in Canada and the United States, including on people in Winnipeg, where they tortured, drugged, and mind controlled and brainwashed people in Canadian and American psychiatric hospitals. And it was all about mind control, brainwashing, which, if you guys heard the last two podcasts I did, I talk a lot about, and NSA talks about all the time. But it's true story. So it was sort of like an openly in your face sinister server, right? Like the icon of the server was like the eye in the pyramid. The name of the server was MK Ultra. The ranks were like Tavistock, White Coat, Social Engineer. But that was also where my whole thing started, because I was very quickly promoted up all these ranks and then was put in charge of like announcing the events and all this different stuff. And since it was a very paranoid, like conspiracy theory type community, everyone then started having conspiracy theories about me and being like, well, who is the Shogun guy? Where did he come from? Why did he suddenly become like the top mod? You know, and then that was when people started making up like fanciful and not as fanciful stories about me. And that was where the whole like slander campaign thing started, with like a whole bunch of goofy stuff. But, you know, props that we had fun there. It was toxic and like not well organized, the way that our servers have been, but it was definitely fun. And we talked a lot about cool shit there, and it was sort of the origin of the whole concept that became the Round Table on the Temple Mount. A lot of it was us reverse engineering it and being like, okay, well, this wasn't good about it, so we'll do it this way, this way, this way. But still, we owe them for, you know, being the base of the community. Then again, Chad deleted, like I made my server, and then Chad deleted his own server and his own backup server of his own free will after that. So it was like a complete. The whole community came with me at once, obviously, and the same thing happened when we left Roundtable because of tech.
I see that, and this was a pre-prepared question list. I'm actually recording the list that I'm asking the questions from, and this is the next question, and it's very ironic. It's a synchronicity, and there's no such thing as coincidence that this member is in the chat now. But how do you feel about a member who was also a big inspiration to me on Discord making podcasts, Crimson?
Well, I mean, yeah, he's in the room now, but he's just one of many, many people through the history of the server who has contributed to the server, then had some sort of personal falling out with me, and then gotten themselves banned from the server. People who have been around for a while know that sequence has repeated over and over and over again. So I don't hold any hard feelings, and that's why we clear the ban list, and I forgive people all the time, even though other people get, you know, mad at me. But I don't really think anything of it, because, again, this pattern of people like loving the server, being part of the server, making it their home, then getting banned or whatever, and then being bitter about it, and then making their own servers, like that's happened many, many times with many, many users. So I don't give it any thought. Like, it's just part of the process.
Well, I just want to reiterate that both of you are very inspirational in my server, so in my development of the podcast. So we can go on to the next question. I'm not sure if you're familiar with, you don't go on other people's Discord servers or anything. So this question might go nowhere. But how do you feel about a Discord account, Truth Manifester, and his mystery school server?
If I remember who Truth Manifester is, then I think I like his content. I'm not certain. Is he like a flat Earth guy and like a Christian?
Oh, it's been. I met him on 5D, and it's been so long since I've been on 5D that I've.
Oh yeah, no, I remember Truth Manifester. Yeah, no, as far as I know, he's been on my servers a few times. He seems cool. He seems interesting. I can't claim to know him well, and I don't know his server because, like you said, I don't join servers other than my own, generally speaking. But if I remember Truth Manifester, he was a very intelligent and well-spoken guy who had some interesting opinions. But again, I may be mistaking him for someone else.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I know the guy, not his server.
So this is the next question. This is a little bit off topic, but it's more. What is your current mission from God or purpose for life?
Well, that's a great question. So, purpose for life has to be way of life, and way of life has to be Bushido. It's the only thing, Christian Bushido. So, that's what I'm trying to follow, varying degrees of success. The mission from God remains the same because it was never changed. It was to be a holy warrior in the cause of God, and the mission from Jesus hasn't changed either, which was to be a bearer of his word. Now, specifically theologically, I would like people to understand that the concept of hell is a grievous mistranslation in the Christian Bible. The word hell does not appear in the Bible, and if it does appear in the Bible, it's a mistranslation of different words with different meanings. It's really important people understand what eternal damnation is, what it isn't, who experiences it, and who doesn't, because this is very badly misunderstood. And secondarily, I am an Elohist, which means I want people to remember and know that the name of Jesus' Father God is El Elyon, meaning El the Most High. And a third is adversarial Christianity, which is taking seriously the role of Satan as adversary as described in the New Testament. Because these three things resolve a lot of theological, moral, and epistemological questions. So I don't know if that made any particular sense, but basically be a martial artist and also play a role in restoring a certain understanding of the scripture that's been lost or mistaken.
Oh yeah, well, sounds like same old, same old.
Yeah, I mean, on another level, I'm just trying to, be a good person and work out and put on muscle mass and save money and all those, mundane things. But when you're talking about mission, I was told be a warrior in God's cause, and I was told bear the word of Jesus Christ. So those have to be my goals, and then perfecting myself morally is a necessary part of those things as well. So that's what we call sanctification that all Christians have to go through.
Oh yes, and then on back to the Discord discussion. What happened in the round table that made it end? If you can go more into detail.
Basically, if you go all the way back to the very beginning of the round table, one of the first members to join, and again, hundreds of members joined within a few hours of me making a server. Like, it was very quick how it grew. But one of the first members was a member named Tech, whose PFP was like a planet Earth. And his thing would always say computing the matrix. And he never talked in general chat or used text convos. And I only heard him speak voice like a handful of times. And I'm one of like only a very, very small, as far as I know, only like maybe 2 or 3 people that ever actually heard his voice. But he served as my head administrator, basically, because I could just ask him to do anything. I'd be like, Tech, please summon the Craig bot, or Tech, please do this, or install this bot, or do that. And Tech would do whatever I wanted, but he wouldn't talk to anybody or communicate with anybody. So he was sort of like a perfect, like, assistant. Like, if there was a raid, he'd like ban everybody who joined in the raid and stuff like that. But then at some point I went away on one of my breaks from Discord, just like I just got back from recently, and he essentially took advantage of the loophole that says if your owner account hasn't been active, you can have the ownership transferred to yourself, which he did, which wouldn't have been a problem if he just continued to act the way that he'd been acting before. But once he had done that, he started being like tyrannical and demoting people, like, and doing all kinds of weird, like, willy-nilly shit that didn't make any sense. And basically he was just like power tripping. And so then I just said that he wouldn't even let me like announce my own events or run my own server. So at that point I was just like, fuck this guy. And then we made the Temple Mount and everybody came here. And then Tech eventually, because the whole server died when everyone came here, Tech eventually ended up giving us back the ownership account. So now we have the ownership account of the round table again. But nevertheless, the Temple Mount is a better designed and more active and more fun server. So we stay here. But we still have the round table as sort of an archive. Because just like this server, it's made up of topical channels. So there's lots of good articles and resources in there, as well as just like old podcasts we recorded as the Roundtable podcast.
See, yeah. What do our Discord ranks like? What does that even mean to someone that like has never used Discord before?
The ranks meant a lot in the Roundtable because in the Roundtable I was doing a social experiment of sorts based on the concept of Ordo ab Chao, right? Even Discord literally means like chaos. Discordia means like the goddess of chaos. So Discord is a notoriously chaotic platform full of people who, scream slurs and racism and every kind of bad behavior you can think of, toxicity. And our concept was that we could build like an elite, rule following, orderly, well organized, enjoyable, but benevolent community. And that's why it attracted so much like attack from people who are trying to prove that, like, no, you can't have that on Discord. But ultimately, that is what we achieved. And so why ranks? Well, because ranks are needed for meritocracies. It's the same reason the military uses ranks, right? You can be a private, sergeant, lance corporal, captain, major, general, 2-star general, 3-star general, right? So hierarchies, meritocracies require hierarchies, and hierarchies imply ranks. It's exactly like in jiu-jitsu. Some people are blue belts, some people are white belts, some people are purple belts, some people are brown belts. And that's a way of both recognizing quality, as well as we said many times, it's like you give someone rope, you see what they'll do with it. Some people hang themselves and some people climb. But it was a way of sorting people for quality in order to make the place not always toxic and not always needing to be moderated. But since we came to the Temple Mount, it's different because everybody who came here with us was already a tried and tested member of Round Table. So we had very few issues here compared to building the Round Table was a big struggle. Building the Temple Mount was not a struggle. It just like happened quite easily because everyone was already organized. So long story short, Tech shit the bed, which by the way is a fulfillment of like the actual Arthurian story, because in the Arthurian story, Lancelot betrays King Arthur because of jealousy, and that's what ends up ending King Arthur's court. So it's funny because Tech literally chose for himself the name Lancelot, and I was literally King Arthur, and he literally took over the server out of jealousy, and then that was the end of the server. So it's just really bizarre how it literally followed like the mythic story arc that is actually from the Round Table. So it like ended very like appropriately. And I do want to point out also that the name Temple Mount, which we use now, as far as I'm concerned, I didn't choose that name. Like I literally stopped and was like, what am I going to call the new server? And it was like the only time in my life I can say, but like the God spoke the answer, and it was just like the Temple Mount. And I didn't think about anything else. I was like, that's what it's going to be. So I think that's going to become more and more significant in the near future as political tensions around the actual Temple Mount intensify as they're doing right now.
Yeah, Discord is a crazy place, very chaotic, very toxic, very, racist, homophobic,
That's right. And then we were trying to make a rule where you can't even call someone, dumb, or you can't even call someone stupid. Like we tried to make it like super, super clean. And people like resented that project and threw trolls at us all day. But eventually we got through them all. And That was it.
So, what is a mod in Discord?
Well, a mod, the meaning of what a mod is or what a mod does varies wildly from server to server. But at a bare minimum, a mod should be deleting posts that break rules, warning members who are breaking rules, if necessary, banning members who are breaking rules, making sure that people are aware of the rules, and making sure that your server is not violating any rules or TOS. But a mod can also be in this server. The ranks are not just mod ranks. At least in the round table, it was like a social status of sorts, like an honor class that you'd achieved. That's not as emphasized in the Temple Mount again because we already earned our ranks before we even made this server, so it wasn't as much of a big issue as it was there, like earning a rank. But basically, we're all mods here. That's one thing that's unique about the Temple Mount is, like, generally speaking, everybody in the chat is going to be a mod who's been with us for years. So
Yeah, and now, are you doing well? Are there any things that you're trying to change in your life?
oh yeah, for sure. I'm trying to gain like 20 pounds of muscle, trying to work out every day, trying to eat more healthy, trying to drink more water, trying to save more money, trying to be closer to God, pray more, read the Bible more, um, keep myself more clean and organized. Enhance my life. Maybe move out of Winnipeg. Maybe volunteer more at the church. Shit like that. Pardon my language.
Oh, this is like I said before. We don't censor anything in my
Mm-hmm.
podcast.
I try
So,
not to.
oh, sorry about that. What were you saying?
Nothing. Sorry.
Oh, I think you just said you're trying not to censor yourself. Like,
I said I try not to swear. Like I try not to swear.
oh yeah,
Sometimes it slips out.
it's not the best language to use. Oh, what does MK Ultra mean to you?
Well, again, MK Ultra is a literal, actual, declassified black project that was run by the United States government in cooperation with the Canadian government under a quote-unquote psychiatrist called Ewan Cameron, and they did horrifically evil, like horror movie level torture to a bunch of innocent people, including like women who had just had babies and were suffering from postpartum depression, completely innocent people. They electrified them. They played loops like over and over saying your mother hates you, your mother hates you, like kept them in sensory deprivation tanks, pumped full of LSD and other drugs for like months at a time without ever letting them out. They did all kinds of horrific shit, and that's only what was declassified. A lot of it was destroyed or remained classified. And it's a complete fantasy that it ever stopped. It just progressed under a different name. So it's a brainwashing program, and the basic purpose of MK Ultra programming or Omega programming is to drive you to suicide or destroy your spirit, which is called spiritual murder. And then they were thinking that then they could rebuild a new personality to replace the personality they'd killed, and you could create like super spies or super soldiers by doing that. At the time, they concluded that while they could destroy the existing personality, they did not have the technology to rebuild a different personality in its place. And again, if you listen to my podcast, my last two podcasts, yesterday and the day before, I believe that they have now solved that problem. So they were not able to do that in the 1960s and 70s, but now they definitely can. It's just a question of with what degree of success and frequency does it happen, and how many people is it affecting. And it's not just the U.S. government; it's also China, primarily China, and Russia as well.
Yeah, so to talk about MK Ultra, like it started the declassified information that you get from the government, the CIA. This top secret project, where they used LSD and other drugs for mind control and information gathering, psychological torture, just like everything that you said. But it lasted from the 1950s until about the 1973. So that's almost 20 years of that. And like you said, we only know the declassified stuff. So it says it ended in 1973, but
Well,
they
that's
probably.
right. So people only know about Project MK Ultra. Very few, and it's good that people even know about that. Like, there's a class action lawsuit happening in Montreal right now where Canadians are saying, "Hey, the government owes us an apology and compensation. They literally tortured us." NSA talks about this all day long, every day. He's talking about what it's like being a targeted individual, and I've given some testimony about what it's like for me being targeted by these programs. But the point is, MK Often, for example, is way crazier than Project MK Ultra. So if you think Project MK Ultra is crazy, research in Project MK Often. They literally worked with Satanists, black wizards, magicians, psychics, like demonologists, and literally got into like satanic black magic. It was CIA funded satanic black magic with cults, and it was all called Project MK Often. So it's like, this shit is very fucked up. And if you told it to like an ordinary person, they'd be like, there's no way that's true, but it's all declassified. This is 100% confirmed and very disturbing. Research the Keepers, a CIA funded cult, satanic cult, like very fucked up.
Yeah, you said you're talking about the targeted individuals. The author of the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was a volunteer for the MK Ultra experiments with LSD in college at Stanford.
Well,
So some
exactly. I,
willing participants.
yeah, when I was recently in, the facility that I've talked about just in the last little while, there was a guy there from the HMS Griffin, and he was older than me. He was a Navy guy. He was from, Her Majesty's Royal Navy, whatever, Griffin, Canadian Navy Griffin, which I don't know what class of boat it is, but it's like a battle boat. He was older than me, and he was dead serious. He's like, "Oh yeah, I took a class in high school called recreational drugs, and we just took recreational drugs." And I was like, "Are you shitting me?" He's like, "No, yeah." And I was like, "You got to be joking me. You're telling me you had an accredited class called recreational drugs where you just did recreational drugs at school?" And he's like, "Yeah." And like, that kind of shit was literally happening in the 60s in places like Berkeley, or Haight Ashbury. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's like it was happening everywhere, and there's so many different names for it. But MK Ultra seems to be that universal umbrella term.
Well, and again, what is MK Ultra, right? MK Ultra is specifically this. It is targeting the personality through trauma. It's trauma-based mind control. So MK Ultra is trauma-based mind control. It's, can you destroy someone's identity through trauma and then rebuild an agent or asset in the place where the other person used to exist? And in the 1960s and 1970s, they concluded that the answer was no. And I'm just saying that in modern times, with the advances in technology that have happened, the answer to that question is now yes, they can. It just not with 100% success rate. In fact, I suspect the success rate is lower than 10%.
Okay, and that concludes the question portion of the podcast. End of the podcast, the AMA welcome to the participants. What do you think about it? Uh, Free speech. Introduce yourself if you'd like.
Yeah, if anybody has a question or a comment about the podcast or whatever, please speak up. Thank you, Chrome Graves, for asking the questions and for doing the interview.
It's been a very eye-opening podcast, and I feel like we got into some interesting subjects, history of Discord, and it just amazes me how the majority of the population don't even know what Discord is or that it even exists.
Yeah, and so little of Discord actually pertains to what we do in our community, but it's definitely played an important role in all of our lives. This community, the Round Table, the Temple Mount, and Discord have been a huge part of all of our lives, right? For most of us, we're closer to the people on these servers than we are to our own family and friends locally because we spend more time talking. we've been together longer, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm very grateful to the platform, and I'm grateful to the community, and I'm grateful to you for conducting the interview. There may or may not be, and probably will be, another podcast later tonight at about 8. But thank you to Chrome Graves for interviewing and recording. And if you can just send the recording to Dawson, he can get it uploaded in the next day or two.
Oh, well, I will do, and tell people to join the Temple Mount Discord server and Temple Mount official podcast YouTube channel.
And likewise, join the MK Ultra 3 server that is being run by Chrome Graves. You should be able to find the link, and you can post it anytime in the member content channel for people to see. So thanks, everybody. Join the Temple Mount official YouTube, join the server, and of course, whatever you do, do not take the mark of the beast. God bless. And if you want to stick around and talk, let's go to Templar Tavern. Thank you for your attendance.